I mean, it's a beautiful time of year. People are busy. A lot of them are away on holidays. I thought I had somebody lined up. He's on a hunger strike in Saskatchewan. His name's Emile Bell. For those of you who hadn't heard, maybe a lot of my audience is in the U.S. There was a huge oil spill in the Saskatchewan River, and there's a native chap, Emile Bell, who's on a hunger strike there. I wanted to talk to him. Hopefully, I'll get him on next week, and we'll see what we can put together. So, but what I've decided to, I've never done this before. Well, first of all, I want to put out contact information. If you want to call me tonight, I'm certainly open to talking to people. B Porter 5611 is my Skype handle. BPORTER 5611. Give me a Skype if you want to talk about what I'm going to be doing or what I'm going to have on, and ask me questions about it or whatever. I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities because I don't have a guest. But what I'm going to do is there's quite an amazing interview that Leuren Moray recently did. Leuren Moray is a kind of like a James McCanney type character. I've had James on many times, top flank world scientist, someone who sort of delves into all the different areas of knowledge, history, physics. She's got a background in nuclear physics, as does James. And she just like puts a lot of things together that most people don't see. So she's having an interview with a prof at her alma mater, which is University of California, Davis. And I find it's full of very interesting information. It's fairly new. It was done in May of this year. And I really think it's worth listening to and watching a few times, actually. It's Leuren, Leuren, Moret, Moret. You do a YouTube search on her, this thing will come up like one of the top searches because it was this year. It's entitled University Politics, Geopolitics, Monsanto, Illuminati, Bloodlines in Vietnam. Believe me, she touches on at least 15 other subjects. Like I say, she's very knowledgeable. She's been researching things all her life. She looks like to me like she's about 70 years old now. So she's definitely been in the system and spent the last, let's say, 40 years out of the system when she realized that, working on nuclear energy and power was, and weapon systems, you name it, down in California was not what she wanted to do with her life. So, again, B Porter 5611 if you want to chat. I'll just put the interview on hold while we have a discussion. If not, let's just listen to this interview, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased here to be joined with Leuren Moray, environmental scientist, and we're going to have a far-reaching conversation on a wide variety of mind-blowing topics. I am Daryl Hamamoto, professor at UC Davis, Department of Asian American Studies. Leuren, it's really great to be with you here today.
Thank you very much, Daryl.
Why don't you lead in on some of the fascinating research that you've been doing?
Well, I'm a UC Davis grad. I graduated in 1968, one of the first women in the geology department. And I came back in the 90s to do my PhD in the ancient history of the Earth's magnetic field, going back 25 million years. And then I met a very interesting man in Livermore. When I was living there, I became a Livermore lab whistleblower, nuclear weapons lab, and his name was Marion Falk, and he started teaching me about radiation. And so I became an international specialist on radiation, and finally, one day, Daryl, I said, this global pollution with radiation that's killing the whole biosphere is omnicide. It's suicide, homicide, ecocide is every kind of death. but basically it's a death across the whole earth of all living things. And finally I said, this just cannot be an accident. And I sat down at my computer about 6 years ago, and I Googled University of California plus weapons of mass destruction.
So we're talking about 2010.
Yes.
Roughly.
I'm sorry, it was University of California plus Skull and Bones.
Plus Skull and Bones, oh yes.
Yes.
The Russell Trust.
Yes, and that took me down a rabbit hole I'm still going down, because now I'm investigating who's at the very top, who really rules the world, and I discovered it's a very, very interesting history of ancient Iranian tribes, the original Zoroastrians, and the First World Persian Empire that has controlled the world for the last 5,000 years. And so that brings us to UC Davis and what is occurring now with what was a covert presence of the Jesuits who, and Monsanto, because it's an agricultural college, and Monsanto was started by the Jesuits. And this global transition, 1,000 year, a millennium transition from the decline of the original Silk Road that created tremendous wealth for 5,000 years, and the collapse now, 1,000 years later, of the Western economy, and the rebirth of the Silk Road, which has been engineered by China. And now China and Russia are partners, and Iran now has joined them.
Now, the reason why I'm involved in this project is because many of the audience members know that, well, it's May 7th, 2016, and many of the people who are watching this presentation are aware that the current chancellor of UC Davis, Linda P.B. Katehi, was recently put on administrative leave by President of the University of California System, Janet Napolitano.
Right.
And Ms. Moray here today is going to be bringing together this incredible research she's done in the area of ancient history in reference to the ancient Iranian bloodlines and connect it to what's going on right here and now at the University of California, Davis. And this shows you the importance of this deep humanities civilizational study that's purposely been excluded from the curriculum so that we have generations of supposedly educated people who are unable to do any type of analytical work that's going to help ensure our survival, our planet's survival, land, sea, and air, and the animal species, including ourselves.
That's just
so we're going to
correct.
We're going to drill down in that area. Please.
And I really want to thank you for the support that you've given me and encouragement and the recognition that this is an important part of research, the ancient history that practically no one knows about. And I used to read a lot, read books and read history and believe all of that, but I just got more and more confused. And finally, around that time that I was going down the rabbit hole, I said, wait a minute, Confucius said, signs and symbols rule the world, not words and laws. And when I let go of that and I began trusting myself and my intuition and my experience and my insights, it changed everything. And I began looking at signs and symbols, and that's what opened all the doors. It's all right in front of us. It's there for everyone to see, but they don't know how to integrate, to relate, to put together the information to tell the real story.
I can guarantee you that the synthesis, this grand synthesis that you've managed to pull together, it's not being taught in the contemporary university.
No.
This, what we are about to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, is a paradigm buster. And the academic establishment are going to have to come in this direction and acknowledge the incredible contribution that Leuren Moret has made. Now, she's done it with a lot of open source material, a lot of published books. Everything that she tells you is thoroughly documented. This is some of it's hypothetical, but it's thoroughly documented. It's all part of the discussion, and I hope to chime in periodically as you're laying it out for us.
You're the one who got me here.
Okay. You're giving me too much credit, but I'll take it.
Okay, do you want me to blame you?
Yes, you can blame me. I think we're all culpable.
Well, I appreciate
cheerfully culpable.
I appreciate blaming you. So, in the 60s, when I was here at Davis, there were 7,500 students. It was primarily an agricultural school for ag economics and pomology, viticulture. It was how to grow fruits and vegetables, and they had animal science, and it was over half foreign students. And I was in absolute heaven. I loved it. It was a safe place to be. The classes were great. It was just, Davis has always been a very, very nice campus. And today, from spending time in the pig barn, I mean, the real pig barn on the campus, and the dairy, and just going out in the vineyards, and it was just so wonderful. And I have come back now in the year 1916. We've driven around the campus today and looked at buildings and names on buildings.
2016.
I mean 2016, okay. Yeah.
We're doing some time slipping here.
Right.
Okay.
And, well, it's because I'm so astounded. It was like being in 1916.
It is a new, brave new world, absolutely. I'm here, and you're telling me, you're giving me this paradisical image of what UC Davis used to be like. It's completely different.
It's completely different. It's completely international. It's very new world order. It's part of the transhumanism movement. It's the ancient bloodlines are here too. These ancient Iranian bloodlines. Under the carpet. But I was able to lift the carpet, and it is Linda P.B. Katehi, who, when I started investigating her names and her origin and her associations and just her whole history, I went, oh my God, okay, now I understand what's happening.
And just for your information, ladies and gentlemen, Linda P.B. Katehi was just put on administrative leave, and I think the pretext for removing her was the fact that she had spent $170,000 of university money in order to scrub her image on social media. And then there was some issue, for those of you who don't know, there was some issue about her serving on boards and receiving cash payment for that. But Leuren is going to be drilling much deeper than that. This is the official reason why she's temporarily being put out of the picture, but it goes much deeper than that. So I thought I would provide a little bit of context there. Please.
Thank you. So Linda Katehi was hired from the University of Illinois in 2009 as Chancellor of UC Davis, the 6th Chancellor of UC Davis. And I was here when Moray Hall was built. It was the end of my undergraduate years here. And I knew Chancellor Emil Moray very, very well. And in fact, I was Arbor Day chairman for several years, and I planted the Moray Grove around Moray Hall in his honor, named the grove for him. And he was really a lovely man. I believe he was born in Vienna, Austria. And he was a wonderful chancellor. Students always had priority over other adults in his office. He would walk out of meetings with Congress members, with faculty members, whatever, to talk to a student. And the students were the priority. That's changed now. She came from Greece, and she came through Chicago, which means you're a very, very special person. Many people, like John Kerry's parents, came from Czechoslovakia through Chicago. Chicago is Rockefeller headquarters, and that's why they come specially. They're picked in other countries. They're selected and funded and brought here, and they immediately have good jobs and positions, and usually part of the intelligence operation of the United States. So she came with her husband from the University of Illinois. And the University of Illinois is very interesting. She's an electrical engineer, a specialist in antennas. And her husband, Spiros, it's Saragunis, is a chemical engineer in the engineering department on the campus. And it's interesting that they're both involved in very, very new world order technologies. And she's involved in the antennas. She has 19 antenna patents before she came to UC Davis. And they are all involved with the cell phones, with switching, with integrating with smart meters and other technologies. And her husband's involved in coatings and protective coatings on metals and materials. It's sort of materials science. And this is extremely important now because the huge amounts of nuclear pollution created by Chernobyl, by nuclear power plants, by our nuclear wars with depleted uranium and battlefield nukes and Fukushima. And the neutron bombs that they're using on the battlefield now, and then Fukushima on top of all of that. And there have also been several Chernobyl-level events in the Ukraine with nuclear power plants and MOX fuel, which is what caused the Fukushima disaster. And those have all been in the last year, and no one even knows about it. Mm-hmm. So what that's done is the Wigner effect. The radiation attacks the surface of metals and materials, and it disintegrates those materials. It steals electrons, and I don't know if you've ever seen, if you put iron filings on a magnet and they start growing up, well, that's what all this radiation is doing to the surface of airplanes, to thin metal, like the bands that go around and hold hoses on metal nipples, for instance, in hydraulic systems on planes. And we are having a complete breakdown of the entire airline industry from entropy. The Wigner effect is basically the crumbling or the decay of materials. And we're having airplane crashes, we're having emergency landings all over the United States, and as the radiation increases and the exposure increases, it accelerates it. So here is Chancellor Katehi's husband working in a very, very critical area of research on how to coat materials and protect them from this breakdown by radiation, by nuclear pollution, and it's contaminated the entire air column. So who's behind that? Who's doing this insane poisoning of the entire planet? Well, it's the Jesuits.
Hmm.
And the Jesuits are very, very prominent within the University of California because they came with the Spanish.
Okay, at this juncture, let me pose a question
Yes.
for the skeptics, because it's very common in this type of discussion here to single out group A, B, or C as being the source of all the world's ills.
Mhm.
And there are books on it, one, the Vatican Assassins. So one question that comes immediately to mind is that, are we talking about one singular group? Are we talking about one group in many different guises, different manifestations? Or are we talking about competing groups, Jesuits being one of many? Could you please explain that before we move forward?
Basically, when you look into literature, for instance, in the 1600s in Czechoslovakia, there was I believe he was a priest named Comines, and he wrote a book about, it was sort of an epic tale, I guess, and he described in that people sitting around together trying to come up with a global poison that would kill many, many people close by and far away. And they were talking about genocide. And if you go back some more into the Bible, you will also find mention of a global genocide. And you will also be shocked at the recommendation to good Christians to go, or Jews too, to go into regions and to kill all of the people and to burn all of their buildings.
Salt the earth.
And salt the earth and destroy all their
destroy the firstborn sons.
All their idols, yes. And so this is basically the Jesuit embrace, enfold, extinguish. It's the secret history of the Jesuits. And the interest behind the Jesuits, the entities that created the Jesuits during the Renaissance in Italy, it was none other than Alessandro Farnese, a Persian. From ancient Persia, his family came through Cappadocia in eastern Turkey, eventually to Italy, and they founded the first 10 Etruscan cities in Italy. And when those were razed, they destroyed them and they created the Roman Empire. The Romans, the Etruscans, the Holy Roman Empire, they're all Iranians, they're all Persians, it's all Persian blood. Italians are Iranians. Their practices, their beliefs, their food, their clothing attire. The Pope, for instance, wears a papal tiara dome, the papal dome, which is called the papal tiara. Well, that's what men in charge of tribes in Central Asia wear. They wear those very large domed hats. And some of the women do also if they're a leader of the community. And then the red slippers that the Pope wears, those are Central Asian slippers. You see them in India a lot and in Asia. So there are many, many cultural ties and legends and religious practices that indicate over and over and over again that the Italians are really Iranians. And Romania was named for the Roman soldiers, the Iranian equestrian nomadic fighters, warriors were brought to Romania, to Eastern Europe, and they were the soldiers, the Roman soldiers for the Roman Empire. So you see you see this fingerprint of Iranian DNA everywhere. And 14,000 years ago, DNA studies of a particular Iranian tribe indicate there was a mutation in the DNA, and it caused different extremes of albinoism. So the most extreme expression is red hair and blue eyes, light blue eyes. And then more moderate expressions are blonde hair, green eyes, hazel eyes, gray eyes. You see a lot of Afghanis with gray eyes. And so now you can walk around the Davis campus or get on a train or walk by some friends sitting on the steps of a building, and you can start talking to them, and you can tell they have Iranian blood, but it has to be from both parents. It's a recessive gene. So that really got me started. Mm-hmm. And
now it's my understanding that Aryan came from Iranian. That's the
right.
synonym. So
that's right.
It has migrated down into our most recent history, the history of World War II,
yes.
Global Depression.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing from you is that this extensive history that goes back millennia, right?
Yeah, thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
Yes.
We're witnessing I don't know if it's the end game or not, but we're witnessing the contemporary expression of this bloodline in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I don't know where you're going with this, but perhaps Linda Katehi, where does someone like her fit into this grand scheme?
Well, I had to understand why she was brought to UC Davis. Why
Right.
was she hired?
We know about the antennas.
Yes. And then I discovered she and her husband were both working in technologies that were very relevant to the New World Order agenda. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. Then I started looking at her name and the origin of the name. So her name is Linda, which is probably an American name that she took on when she came here, P.B. Katehi. And Pisti is what the P stands for. Her first name is Pisti, her real name. And that's a Hungarian name for crowned or victorious. And that name was given to royal babies only.
She's royalty.
She's royalty.
She's of a royal bloodline.
Yes. And the Hungarians are from Central Asia. The early Greek, that word pisti in early Greek is Stephanos, Stephen. So that's what it means in all the languages of Europe and ancient languages of Europe. But that's not her name. It's Pisti, which is Hungarian. The Hungarians came from Central Asia. Mm-hmm. So that was a first name probably in her family, but it's a man's name, which indicates even more that it was an important family name. Even though she was a girl, she may have been the firstborn, and they gave that name to her. That's what happened to me. Leuren is a man's name. Mm-hmm. And then Pistis appears in Gnostic texts, which are related to Zoroastrian, the ancient Iranian religion, in the 3rd to 4th century AD. And then Pistici is in a province of Mentera in southern Italy, and the ancient name is Basilicata, Basilica, mm-hmm. The churches, grand churches, and so forth. Now, Pistici, the chi means the bloodline or the stock of the Pisti people or the Pisti tribe. Mm-hmm. So there's her link there with Pisti to Basilicata, and her second middle name is Basile, which refers to Basilicata. Basile is a last name. Basilicata is it's in the southern part of Italy, as I said, and it refers to basilica and these ancient, very, very grand churches. Now, it's really interesting that in the 4th century, there was a Saint Basilios from that same name, who was the bishop of Caesarea, Roman Empire, and he was one of 4 men who started the Eastern Orthodox Church. So he was involved with Constantine and the whole schism between the Catholic Church and the ones who did not want to submit, the Christians who didn't want to submit to the Pope. So you see, she has a royal, religious, high-level religious background, and you would probably call her part of the papal nobility. So, so then Katehi, okay, what does Katehi mean? Well, I looked up Katehi. There was only one reference to it, and it was to a town, a village in Uttar Pradesh, which is northern India, and it's where the ancient Iranians spilled over the Himalayas from Central Asia when their populations built up too much. And it's in the eastern part of the southern side of the Himalayas. Very, very old. All of these names and the roots of her names and all the associations go back before the Christian period, before the Greeks even. So she is very ancient Iranian. Now, Katehi, if you take the I off, is a very rare rice that is grown on the Caspian slope in Gilan province to the west in northern Iran. And it's actually where Stalin was born. Stalin was Iranian. Mm-hmm. He was not Russian.
Or Georgian.
Or Georgian. He was Iranian.
Okay.
And I have pictures of him when he was a young man.
Sure.
And so the mother of Ataturk was also from Gilan. Now, this rice is the precursor, or it's the arborio rice of the Italians that the Iranians took to Italy. Arborio rice is an ancient rice the Iranians grew on the Caspian Sea. So that was also Katehi. There are villages in Iran, in Fars, Gazvin, Khorasan, and Isfahan that are Katehi. And those are all very, very old centers for the Iranian culture. Mm-hmm. So there we have absolutely solid evidence what her roots are.
Now, if I could boil it down,
yes,
we see that ostensibly Linda P.B. Katehi was brought in because of her expertise in this antenna technology, which I hope you'll talk about its applications currently.
Yes.
19 unique patents credited to her, and then there's her husband, who is a specialist in these coatings or material science. So that's the exoteric reason why they were brought in.
Yes. Right.
But what I'm hearing is there's a much deeper metaphysical or esoteric reason why she was brought here to UC Davis and into the UC system.
Yes.
And this drama that's unfolding now, it might be a Punch and Judy show. That's what we're trying to figure out here. It might be just a dumb show for the public. And if so, it's very dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah, if this hypothesis, it's a very strong one, I must admit. But as the evidence accumulates, it'll be much more compelling, probably elevated to the level of theory. But I think we're in a very dangerous position if we have such people like this who are helming a major institution. And I hope you will talk about her relationship to, because you mentioned her in passing, Janet Napolitano and her background.
Yes.
Others of that I guess they call them root races, these royal lines that are controlling the destiny of humanity to the present. Please.
Well, some of the others who are on the main stage today, Janet Napolitano, she's from the province, from where Naples is, right next to Basilicata.
She's the University of California president, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, just for your information. Please go.
And she is from the province of Calabria, which is right next to the province Basilicata that that Chancellor Katehi came from. And Leon Panetta is another one. Leon Panetta, who was Secretary of Transportation under Clinton. Then he was head of the CIA under Obama for 2 years, and then he was moved to Secretary of Defense. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. Gee, what ties all of those together? It's drugs. Yeah, Clinton built the Mena Airport in Arkansas to bring China white heroin. The Chinese were paying back the Rockefellers for the development funds they loaned China. And so he built the airport. It's a free trade zone. The U.S. government has no jurisdiction. The Walmart trucks and the Tyson chicken trucks go into that airport. They pick up the heroin, and they're the distributors around the United States.
Just as a footnote, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Hopsicker has produced a DVD series, and he's written books on this very system. It may sound bizarre, crazy. It's never really hit the general public's attention, but what Leuren is saying here has been explored and exposed by a number of investigative journalists. If you care to follow up on it, check out the work of Daniel Hopsicker.
Yes, that's correct. And also Dope Incorporated, Britain's opium war against the U.S. Well, this is a lot more than the opium war against the U.S. This is part of this global dope economy that's 5 times greater than the legitimate economy of the world. And so this Mena Airport and Panetta's time in the CIA, of course, they run all the drugs. And then the Secretary of Defense, well, the military is very involved in the drug racketeering, so forth and so on. I mean, that's what the Vietnam War was about. It was getting opium from the Himalayan foothills because Turkey stopped growing opium poppies. And so they had to find another source. And it's amazing because drugs are just flooding the United States now. And for the last about 6 or 8 years, I've been reading JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, and I'd never seen articles about heroin addiction. Well, they're reporting it like in every other article now in JAMA and what states it's going into. And heroin use seems to increase when we're having wars or military conflicts in other countries. And it's because the soldiers are self-medicating. The depleted uranium weapons and the weaponry residue that they're exposed to is making them so sick, they're going on heroin to just ease the pain. But now, in 2016, I'm getting a lot of feedback from students at Davis that the Davis campus and off campus is flooded with heroin.
See, I never would have known that.
Yes.
Yeah, that completely bypassed me. I thought maybe crystal methamphetamine, or crank, that I knew about. I know about marijuana, alcohol, but I didn't understand that heroin had become so popular. I understand in the Northeast, however, in states like Vermont.
Yes.
There's all these different overdoses with upper middle class, yes, professional, quote unquote, white people.
That's one of the first places it started that I read about.
In Vermont.
Yes, in Vermont.
So it's linked to this larger network of Dope Incorporated.
Yes. We're talking about a global network with one template carrying all of this out. Mm-hmm. And it originates with those ancient Iranian bloodlines. Mm-hmm. And they have 10 bloodline families that sit on a council, and they're the ones who advise the Jesuits. The Jesuits worked for the Iranian bloodlines, and the Jesuits were created by Alessandro Farnese, who became Pope Paul III in the Renaissance, and Fidel Castro is pure Iranian ancient bloodline, and he's directly descended from Pope Paul III.
Okay, you're going to have to unpack that one for us here. Fidel Castro, the idol of all the left liberal progressives in academia.
Yes.
The liberator of El Pueblo.
Yes.
That Fidel Castro.
That's Fidel Castro.
The one who is actually one of the richest, most wealthy person in the world.
He is from. He's from the papal nobility family, and he's from the Dukes of Castro. And Pope Paul III had 3 sons, and he gave each of them a dukedom. The Duke of Castro, the Duke of Piacenza, and which is a city in northern Italy. That's where Castro's father was born.
And you've done the genealogies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Just so the ladies and gentlemen understand that this is just not fantasy. This is.
And the third dukedom that Pope Paul III gave to his sons was the Duke of Parma. And so I was really shocked, and then I started looking at Spanish land grants in California. And there was a U.S. Supreme Court lawsuit in the 1850s. And when the Spanish government turned over their Spanish colonies in North America to the United States government, there was a treaty made, the Treaty of
Guadalupe Hidalgo.
Guadalupe and Hidalgo.
1848.
Yes, that's right. And the agreement between the two governments was that land grant holders, Spanish land grant holders, would be allowed to retain the land they were granted by the Spanish. And as soon as the land was turned over to the U.S. government, the state of California immediately sued to counteract, to reverse that treaty, because they wanted all the land. And during that process, the U.S. Supreme Court ended up reviewing it, and they asked for all land grant people claiming they had Spanish land grants
title search
to submit their claims, and the Supreme Court looked at each case and ruled whether it was a valid claim or not. And so out of 850 claims that were made approximately, they awarded, or they upheld 670. And then I started looking at the names of the grantees, and I was shocked because the greatest number and the largest amount of land was granted to people with the last name Castro. And then I noticed what counties and what towns, because that's listed too, the modern towns, modern cities, and almost all of the UC, almost all of the University of California campuses are where Castro land grants are.
It's beginning to come into focus now.
And the Livermore Nuclear Weapons Lab, Livermore is a Spanish land grant to the Castros also. So then I said, oh God, there's really a connection. And then I looked at UC Davis and I said, my God, they submitted a bid to have the CERN most advanced collider built here at UC Davis. And it is
You're talking about the Large Hadron
Collider. The Large
Collider.
Hadron Collider.
Okay.
Yes, and Japan bid on it, Davis bid on it, or California did, and somehow it ended up half in Switzerland and half in France. And I asked Leuren, why did they do that? He said, well, then neither France nor Switzerland own it, someone else controls it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be these vested interests I'm talking about. And actually, it's those hidden bloodlines that funded the development of HAARP and the Collider from the very beginning.
Let's go back to
Yes.
Lawrence Livermore.
Okay.
Because this seems to be the institution that was at the dawn of this
Right.
Self-destructive hostage, high-level techno-hostage taking
Right.
situation, this extortion scheme that you're going to hopefully
Right.
outline first.
Right.
And perhaps you can talk about your own experience at Lawrence Livermore.
Yes.
You worked there for a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I worked at Livermore Nuclear Weapons Lab from 1989 to 91. And I worked on the WIP project, Waste Isolation Pilot Program in New Mexico, which was to bury nuclear waste underground. And all attempts to make a storage facility for nuclear waste have failed in the United States, all of them. And when the New Mexico one failed, they just said, we're going to do it in Nevada. It's the last place we can do it, at the Nevada test site, where they've done 1,300 nuclear bomb tests. And even that has failed because they put it in an active volcanic zone. So 32 earthquakes a month happen where they're planning to store nuclear waste safely for 250,000 years. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is so crazy. It's very, very crazy. But let's see, what was I talking about?
We're talking about your background at Livermore, because what I'm trying to establish is that you've done this external research, but you're also have lived this. I mean, you have worked in these institutions, and so you're also bringing the insights of someone who was working in the belly of the beast.
So in 1991, I packed all my stuff in my car one day, and I drove out the gate of the Livermore lab, and I left my keys and my pager in the guardhouse, and I went home. I fired them. Mm-hmm. They didn't fire me. And with the University of California, they've gone into chancellors and vice chancellors' offices and marched them, the guards, to the border of the campus, and said, get out of here, you're fired. And they were never allowed to remove their personal items. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm not going to let them do that to me. I'm leaving this place, and I'm taking all my stuff, and I'm going to fire them. And they've never stopped retaliating against me since then. That was 1989, but 91. But I'm glad that I've had this experience. It's been hell in a lot of ways, but you have to be in their house. You have to live in their house to know who they are and what they are, and so that when you leave, you know how to challenge them. You know how to expose them, because what they're doing is immoral, it's illegal, it's insane. They are destroying this planet without our permission, without informing us, and without even having a good reason for doing it. They're just doing it because they can. And I think that's what really woke me up and just changed my whole life, was taking this on.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the biographical element, because I sense there's something that's driving you that goes deeper than pure intellectual curiosity.
Oh, no, it's because I love people. It's because I love nature. I love living things. Yeah. We live in a beautiful world. The earth is so beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a game. This is not an academic exercise, neither for Leuren or for myself.
No.
I am in their house. I am working in the belly of the beast. I have suffered, and I'm not going to talk about it too much today, the repercussions of asking certain questions about my own workplace, which is I'm entitled to do as a citizen, as a sovereign human being, as an academic, as an American. I'm entitled to do that, and I will exercise those rights to the best of my ability. But it takes research such as this, cutting edge research such as this, that'll provide us the intellectual, the historical, the analytical framework to understand what we are facing. Because so far, these people have been very good in veiling the truth and hiding it, because the Rockefellers own the University of Chicago. The Russell Trust runs Yale University. All these bloodlines control information, scholarship, and every single aspect, and sciences, of course, almost every single aspect of our lives that shape our world.
And what I learned at UC Berkeley, I was working on gender equity issues and minority equality and things like that in the early 90s. And there were 500 lawsuits against the University of California for gender discrimination and also ethnic issues also. And so I started investigating, well, what is the University of California? Why are they breaking all these laws and everything? Well, it turns out that Dwight and Gilman started the land grant, the U.S. land grant program, and that was to have the U.S. government allot land in each state to build a state university.
This is the Moret Act, correct?
That's correct. And it was to educate the farmers, the pioneers, to create teachers and military and farmers, to educate them more. And it was to create a bigger economy. It was to create wealth.
Welcome everyone back to I'm Nature. Unfortunately tonight my guest could not make it. He's on a hunger strike in Saskatchewan. They had a massive oil spill there in the main river, the Saskatchewan River, and he's also a native person, so he'd be my first native guest, so I'm going to have to hang on and wait for him to come back next week. But I've got this amazing interview that I'm playing featuring Leuren Moray, so we'll pick that up soon. But I just wanted to mention the importance of supporting Revolution Radio. This is, I think, the top site on the internet for informed radio listening. We cover all the topics here, folks. And I think you really do yourself a favor when you subscribe to the archives, because then, if you can't catch the shows when you want to, you can download them and listen to them at your leisure. When I do drive, I usually listen to archives from the station. So I think it's a super investment, $5 a month. You can't beat it, and it helps us meet our expenses, and so hopefully it makes you feel good inside, knowing that you're making your little contribution to an amazing platform for information. So, anyways, that's it for me now, and I'm just gonna let you get back to this incredible interview, and we'll pick it up from there. Anybody wants to call in, it's bporter5611, and we can chat about anything you like. All right. Over and out.
Universities and colleges. But from the very beginning, all of these institutions were exempt from state laws.
This is what I found out.
Yes.
They are a government within a government.
That's right.
A sovereign entity.
And they actually were set up to benefit the oligarchs and industrialists and so forth who went to the Ivy League colleges.
Sure.
So the state universities were set up to train workers for the ruling elite. Mm-hmm. And so you need to understand the history and the ancient history of issues that you're involved with before you can ever really understand what is really happening.
And as a footnote, President Gilman, who was the first president to really put his stamp on the University of California system, was a member of the Order of Death. He was a Skull and Bones person.
They were both Skull and Bones.
They're both Skull and Bones people, and perhaps we can range into this area a little bit later, because there's an occult overlay when we're talking about this.
Absolutely, very, very much so. And the origin of Skull and Bones was in Europe and Germany.
Sure. 1822.
Yes, that's right. So it all sounds bizarre and everything until you begin putting all of these pieces together, and then you find more and more evidence, and pretty soon you have an airtight case using government data.
Sure. And published books by
Yes.
quote unquote reputable scholars.
Right.
Who are always just slightly unable to complete the picture.
Right.
Purposely.
Right.
Because the academic profession does not allow you to fully bring all these different elements of knowledge and information together.
Right.
In a comprehensive whole that really gives away the game.
Right.
This is why what we're doing today here is
Yes.
so exciting to me.
So let's go back and look at the history.
Please.
Chancellor Katehi was hired from the University of Illinois, which is a military-based university. It's where the first computer and computer language was made for the Navy. The Navy is there. It's their research lab, their university. And ENIAC was the first computer, and it had a language. And then later on, Fortran came out of the University of Illinois also. But that's where Katehi and her husband landed.
Mm-hmm.
And there she ended up, her grad students, of course, did the research, but she ended up with 19 antenna patents. And these antennas now, waveforms, are the new mechanism to enslave society, to take over the whole entire world. That's what HARP is. There are HARP bases all over Antarctica, and that's in training the Earth's magnetic field. And the animal studies for mind control were done here and are still being done here on the UC Davis campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the 60s, the students would come back from that secret facility, and they were students who did work studies. So they worked in the monkey colony, and they said the monkeys have the top of their heads cut off and their wires coming out of them, and they can transmit waveforms to them and make them just climb up and down in their cage all day long. They can command them to do anything they want to. And it sounded so out there that I didn't pay very much attention to it. But now I understand as I see this all unfolding and other experiences I had.
Speaking of the literature, ladies and gentlemen, you might want to check out a book by Dr. Jose Delgado.
Yes.
Called Toward a Psycho-Civilized Society.
Yes.
And you have photographs in there with the monkeys, the simians,
Yes.
with part of their skulls removed. And I think the technology was called the stem sievers.
Yes.
So this is decades old technology.
Yes.
Who knows what they're doing now? But you're saying that the antenna technology that Linda, quote unquote, PB Katehi, is responsible for is integral to this new phase in mind control, behavioral control?
It's the delivery system.
The delivery system. Okay.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
And Delgado also wrote a book, The Biology of Aggression. And so they can use these frequencies to cause food riots. They can use these frequencies as in Rwanda, that big, huge massacre in Rwanda. Those were Russian, Ukrainian oligarchs who sent thugs down to Rwanda. The whole place had been wired up with antennas. These guys had been hooked up to computers, and they were programmed before they went down to Rwanda to carry out the slaughter. And it was plain and simply so that the Russian and Ukrainian oligarchs could steal all the wealth of the colonists. Mm-hmm. And the order was to slaughter all of them, every single white person, and steal all of their wealth, go into the banks, strip their bank accounts, take all their securities from safety deposit boxes. And the Africans there had no money, so they were used to cover the slaughter of the white people.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, closer to home, this is speculative, of course, Did you see something similar taking place recently down in Burlingame, California, when the social justice warriors started rioting and acting up? Could you?
I didn't know about that.
Oh, yes, overturning police cars, vandalizing them, beating up supporters of Party A, B, or this is when Donald Trump came into town.
I
earlier
remember
this
that.
week. Yes.
Yeah.
But what you're describing there was caught on camera by people such as InfoWars news gatherers.
Yes.
And it's been seen by millions of people all over the world.
Yes,
so, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see a real live, because Rwanda might be removed in time and distance from us, but if you want to see this type of control being rolled out here and now, right in our area, in the United States of America, take a look at that YouTube footage and break it down. I suspect that the antenna arrays were out there.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. Okay. All of the UC campuses now, the street corners have been taken up. They've put surveillance and it in so that it can't be removed. And it's hooked up to the street lights, to the smart meters, to cell phones. It's all integrated now. That's what Katehi's technology is about. It's about integrating all of that. So you get a huge array of antennas that are all integrated, and you control everything.
So the HARP model has been regionalized or localized.
It's been localized. It's been made more granular. It's more powerful, but it's more miniaturized. It's gotten smaller and smaller and more efficient, and had a bigger and bigger impact.
Okay.
So it's a creeping mechanism for controlling humanity.
I've been teaching here at UC Davis for 20 years now, and beginning about 8 years ago, perhaps even 10 years ago, I began to see a 180-degree shift in intelligence level, intellect, analytical ability, expressive ability, intellectual ability, of course, I mentioned.
Yes.
And in attending that, I also saw a gradual acceleration of hostility and anger.
Yes.
And much of this has been directed towards myself and towards other faculty people.
That's right.
And I'm reading that this has been taking place coast to coast, north to south at different universities. So where do the students, undergraduates, I'm at the university, where do they fit into this picture? Are they being used as shock troops for this transformation?
Oh, absolutely. It's even worse
elaborate.
than that.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what it's like in the 60s. In the 60s, when I was a student at UC Davis, I used to go home to Santa Barbara for holidays and summers. And I noticed, or just Easter break or something, and I noticed that when I was driving back on Highway 5, I'd start getting really depressed about coming back to Davis. This horrible depression and overwhelming fear and uneasiness came over me, and I just never could understand it. But it would always start about 150 miles from here. And so very recently, I was reading about HARP facilities in California. Well, there's a HARP facility in Visalia, and it's to transmit Voice America to countries around the world. And there's also a naval air base in Visalia, a U.S. Navy air base. So that transmission was coming out of that HARP facility in Visalia.
I see.
And that was a long time ago. That was in the 60s. But recently, a woman in Texas, I was telling her about that. She said, my friend has a son who's at Davis now, and he's complaining about the same thing. And there's also a very, very large antenna on the south side of the freeway, on your way from Davis into Sacramento. There's a huge antenna out in the middle of a field. That's also a Navy antenna. And that's integrated with the HARP technology and with antennas up in Oregon. So they've been doing this since the 50s.
My gosh. So these are like carrier waves that are affecting behavior.
Yes. These are ELF, extra long frequency, or ultra long frequency carrier waves. and they put the applications on that carrier wave. So right now they're transmitting suicide frequencies that make people commit suicide. And this is all over the Davis campus. It's all over California. There's signs and billboards all over San Francisco, right on the main Market Street. They're huge 10-foot high displays along the sidewalk right next to the curb. And they're posters with hotlines, for suicide hotlines. If you feel like committing suicide, call the hotline. And they have it on the other side also, so the pedestrians walking down the sidewalk can see it. Mm-hmm. And my Native American friends have said, the young people are committing suicide 5, 4, and 5 a night on the reservations. Mm-hmm. And the reservations have, the Indian reservations in the United States, they have the mineral rights to them. They were put on the poorest land, but they have 85% of the energy sources. The uranium, the coal, whatever that creates energy, the oil and gas, and they had the misfortune of being given that great wealth. And they've said to me many times, why can't we just give them the mineral rights and have them leave us alone? I said, they don't work that way. So these technologies now, what is so alarming about what's happening in the universities is that in the fall of 2015, less than a year ago, the state university campuses were turned over to Satanism.
Okay, let's stop at this juncture. How do we substantiate that? Where do we look in order to verify that claim?
Well,
all right, because we're doing solid right. Scholarship here.
And this has to do with Katehi also.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay, just a minute.
So in the fall, we had a rollout of the satanic agenda.
Yes.
All right.
So I started seeing satanic symbols on and off the UC Berkeley campus. Mm-hmm. And for instance, I saw the head of the goat, which
Baphomet.
Yeah, Baphomet.
The goat of Mendes.
In students' windows, I started seeing stars turned upside down, so that the two points of the stars represented the goat's horns. Mm-hmm. And I saw American flags turned upside down and backwards on the balconies of the students' apartments. That was representing overthrow of the U.S. government. Leuren and I have recorded the ski team, UC Berkeley ski team, in the house next door to us during parties. They were drinking and dancing and everything, and they were talking in loud voices about overthrowing the U.S. government. Mm-hmm.
No, this is anecdotal, though.
We have tape recordings.
Well, you've recorded it, but you're interpreting it. So do you have any sort of because I've been reading in the corporate press about the growing popularity of religions such as Wicca. So they're just portraying it as a form of religious expression rather than a satanic takeover. I think, I agree with you. There's something deeper here
there's much more. Okay.
Yes. But I want to, for the sake of the skeptics out there, beyond the anecdotal, and I know you've recorded and you've photographed these signs. I've seen them as well. YouTube is full of, there's a satanic ritual taking place at the Super Bowl, at the American Music Awards. The internet's full of that type of display. So we know something's going on. I wanted to find out definitively, is there some sort of Department of Defense or something like equivalent to the National Security Memorandum 200 that was workshopped, a white paper that says we are going to convert the universities and college in the United States to Satanism?
It doesn't come out directly like that, but it's happening not just in California, just on the UC campuses. Mm-hmm. It's happening across the United States. It's happening in Europe. For instance, in the UC campuses now, in the land grant university campuses around the U.S., there's very heavy recruiting with very young entering students, female students, to become prostitutes. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of student prostitution now, which is encouraged by these sort of underground networks, and they're coming from the campus. But in Europe, they have referred to this coming out of the military. And we know that when the U.S. Destroyed Yugoslavia, DynCorp went in, and the first thing they did was to begin recruiting young women who were starving to death and living in horrible conditions to be prostitutes. Mm-hmm. And I saw those beautiful Yugoslavian girls in Tokyo, in Roppongi, which is the nightclub area of Tokyo. And they were obviously on drugs. They were standing in doorways in pairs, and they were looking for customers. Mm-hmm. This is happening at the University of Michigan. They have a satanic group active on and off the university campus.
Well, at Harvard University, some student organization they claim to be satanic or Luciferian was going to hold a black mass on campus.
That's right.
They did call it off.
That's right.
But I think they were testing the waters to see how far they could take this agenda.
Well, off the campus is a satanic group, a formal group.
I see.
In where the University of Michigan is. Is that Lansing? I'm not sure what city it is.
University of Michigan.
But East
Lansing is Michigan State. Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor. Yes. Okay. So they, in the mainstream media, they reported an official satanic group, right, organized group, was going down to Louisiana to do a satanic ritual for the city council.
Right.
And it was like there was a big question about whether the city council wanted them to do it or not, but it ended up happening. And now there's a new chapter of that satanic group in Louisiana, in that city. I think it was New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So this is coming out of the military.
Okay.
It's part of the occult.
All right. So does this perhaps trace back to Colonel Michael Aquino? Are you familiar with that individual?
Absolutely. It traces back to the Jesuits. It traces back to Mesopotamia, to the Kabbalah and the Talmud, which were magic cult instruction books. Mm. And they recommended pedophilia in children, but they had to be under 8 years old. Mm. And it's in the Kabbalah and the Talmud. And properly practicing Jews, I'm not including them, they follow the Torah. Mm-hmm. The Talmud and the Kabbalah are satanic.
The Babylonian
cults.
Talmud, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are satanic cults.
And are those satanic cults controlled, or were they created by these ancient Iranian bloodlines?
Yes, they were.
Please expand.
For instance, the Aldobrandini is one of the ancient Iranian bloodlines. It's a famous Italian family. Mm. And Al-Dob, Al is the, Dob is devil, Dini. Al-Dob.
The people of the devil.
Yeah, the people of the devil.
Wow.
So they're definitely satanic. They're proud of it. They're open about it. We have a website, LeurenMoray.info, and we have a Rothschild ball with photographs of the Rothschilds and their guests and members of their family doing satanic practices.
This is the masked ball photos?
The masked ball.
And by the way, they're called Venetian masks, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Right.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So we can see the cultural and the historical continuities, ladies and gentlemen.
And the Venetians were Iranians.
Well, yeah, you alluded to that. Yes. That's why I interjected that, because I'm interested in masking
But the Middle East, these Mesopotamians, all of Eurasia, we know now from DNA studies done over the last 5 years, especially by Russia, all of Eurasia was settled by Central Asians.
Please talk a little bit about the DNA studies, and I assume that these studies are coming out of the Human Genome Project, right?
No, they wouldn't be coming out of the Human Genome Project, which is American. They're coming out of Russian scientific research.
All right, because this DNA, from our conversations, this DNA research provides the scientific backing that helps support this hypothesis or this theory in the making. It's irrefutable, it's ironclad, and I think this is probably the most important development in this type of research. It's hard science, it's not fantasy. It's supported by definitive DNA analysis, and you can trace the distribution of these different peoples, these different tribal groups. And
well, folks, I'm pleased to announce that I have a live guest now. It's a perfect time to take a break from this incredible interview with Leuren Moray. I actually compared her to the guest that's coming on now, James McCanney. She's sort of like the feminine equivalent. Her knowledge of issues is sort of scans the globe in the subject area. So, James, are you with me now?
Yeah. Oops. Yes, I am.
Oh, awesome. Wow, we got a good connection. Yeah. So thanks for coming on at last minute. I had a guy lined up, but had some technical issues, so I'll get him on next week. But I was just Leuren Moray was just talking about the fact that the whole university system in the USA is now being is basically run by a satanic cult, and that she's got the historical information on it and everything. But anyways, we don't have to talk about that. But I don't know if you've heard of this assertion of hers, but how are you doing?
Good. I could make a few comments about that same topic before we move on.
Yeah, sure. What's your view on that? She's saying that the whole system was funded from the beginning. The University of California, where she was is her alma mater. She says the Russell Trust is actually a satanic cult. The guy Russell was part of Skull and Bones and everything. So yeah, there's a lot of connections.
There is, and there was this aura of freedom, or university freedom of thought, etc. But if you go back, it's totally controlled. And I mean, I sat in the middle of this, and at the time didn't really understand the hornet's nest that I was in. Cornell University, one of the Ivy League schools, I was there for 2 years. And you have to understand, at the professor level, or faculty level, you probably don't really, most of them don't really understand that. And to put it quite bluntly, most of them don't understand much of anything except their own little problem that they're working on, or research area, or whatever. And besides that, they walk around in a complete fog, and they're allowed to. It's, historically, the educated people, or the educated leaders, should be at the forefront of politics, at direction of humanity, etc. But these people are just walking around in a fog. That's the best thing you could say. And I was, I guess I'm very mentally active, and when I do things, I design my own research. That's something that most of these people don't do. Very few people direct their own research. They pick up a book that's published by the NSF, or the NOAA, or some other government agency, the National Institute of Health, long laundry list, NASA, whatever, and or DOD, the Department of Defense. But anyway, they pick up these books, and they have defined areas of research that these departments or agencies want to fund and know about. So these people go, okay, well, that's what we'll do. they get their grad students directed, and then they sit back and kind of blank out, and that's really what they do. So it's a perfect environment. It's a perfect sterile environment for satanic leadership to thrive, really. And the end result is education, which is technically worthless. They charge a lot of money, and then when the people come out of it, they think they're smart, they think they're educated, and then they go on to do the same. So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. But yeah, the roots and the what would you call it? The big money that comes into these universities, etc., is very much what you'd call black money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's where she was at University of California, Davis. I guess the Davis campus or whatever.
Sure.
One of the top bureaucrats was an expert in antenna technology and mind control technology, and she was asked to leave, and that's sort of what led to this interview. So evidently, she invented 19 different antennas that are designed to control minds, and it's all been proven with research done on monkeys way back in the 60s. It's quite a fascinating interview. I'll share it with you on Skype. I don't know if you've actually heard it. I think I shared it with you a few months ago when I first discovered it. But like I said, I didn't have a guest and I threw it on. But yeah, it's kind of it's quite amazing how what can you say? How devilish the agenda is in the university system right now. Especially in the U.S. and she said Europe too. I mean, it's just it's. I mean, it has to be. I mean, how did they get away with creating all these planet-killing technologies, and nobody said anything? I mean,
the other
GMO,
thing too,
we got nuke power, we got geoengineering, we got chemicals, we've got military-industrial complex with trillions of dollars going into it every year. I mean. There's got to be some pretty dark people behind this stuff, James.
Yeah, and then you look at the think tanks, or what you might call study groups, like Battelle Research. That's a great example of one that you think, oh, they're doing top-level research, they're private research, or Gulf South Institute, which, by the way, I had associations with when I got my master's degree at Tulane. I worked with Gulf South Research in New Orleans, and the project that I was working on was funded under the National Institute of Health, and we were looking for materials that were sensitive to X-rays to build the next generation of X-ray machines, which now if you go to the hospital, you stand in front of they put in, instead of a X-ray plate, like a silver halide plate, instead of the old technology, now they put in an electrical digital plate, and that was part of what I pioneered at Tulane when I was there. But anyway, there's a lot of good research that comes out of it. But my point is that there is what we call tier one science, also revolving around some of these areas, and so there's secret science. And that's, you never see that. So this aura of peer review journals, so-called respectable peer review journals, is a bunch of crap. It's real research is not published in peer review journals that are visible. In fact, most research that's done, say through Battelle or Gulf South Research, places like that, is never visible, and it's only visible by the people that it goes up the ladder, and most of the scientists are compartmentalized, and so they really don't even know what's their technology that they develop, what it's even being used for, or where it's going, or who's got their hands on it to do it for what nefarious purposes. So it's very complicated, but yeah, if you go up to the funding and the founding of these universities, very much cloaked in black, let's put it that way. and a lot of money behind these. And the other thing is a lot of disinformation stems from university second tier 2 and tier 3 level research. So this is the garbage science that's pawned off on the public, and they put a lot of money. Like when I go to, say, American Geophysical Union meeting, there's now probably 17 to 20,000 people from all over the globe that unite into these meetings, and it's pure tier 2 science. So they spend a vast amount of money on this facade that really they don't even care about. Just to give you an example, I mean, I already knew about this because tier 1 scientists many times had come out to talk to me to get an understanding of what was going on with various, scientific issues. But I was in a American Geophysical Union meeting dealing with magnetic fields of the sun and how they emanate out into the solar wind and how the energy is carried in the solar wind, etc. And so this team, these couple scientists, had a project, and it was funded from the military. And so anyway, then he said yes, and we always send our data up to the next level, up to the military level, which is tier 1. And so anyway, some guy out in the audience asked, he says, well, what did they tell you? Did they agree with your theoretical work, your analysis of the data? And the speaker goes, oh, they never tell us anything. We never get any reaction of any kind. We don't know if it's good or bad, or if they used it or not, or anything. and that's exactly what's going on. He was basically admitting he was a tier 2 scientist. And that's very real. I fund my own projects. I direct my own projects. I go in the direction I want. And that's why I'm on the forefront of just about everything that's going on today, whether it's weather or weather control, or whether it's prime numbers, or whether it's encryption, whether it's physics of the solar system. What's that?
The nuclear power problems. I mean, you have a master's degree in solid state nuclear physics. I mean,
correct.
You've got. I mean, I could say Leuren, Moray, and you are like twins. I mean, she really does have a broad grasp of many history. I mean, if you don't know the Bible, you don't know history, and you're an expert on the Bible too. So, I mean, you really do have a great grasp. I always love having you on. Hey, why don't you tell people about your own show, how they can listen to you? Because you're on every week on Thursday, right?
Yeah, every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time, from WWCR Nashville, Tennessee. It's commercial-free, sponsor-free radio show. Its summertime frequency is 9.350 megahertz. And it also streams WWCR.com. And then Friday night it re-airs from WTWW Nashville at 10 p.m. and then 3 a.m. Saturday morning. These are all Central Time. And then it re-airs on satellite on Saturday quite a few times in the Western Hemisphere, and then in the Eastern Hemisphere over there in the North Africa, Europe, Mideast market 3 times on Saturday it re-airs. But all of the ways to listen are on my webpage, jmccsci.com. And the archives are all there. And just starting in August, I began a new extra paid cast. It's an extra hour that people can join for $3.95. And I dive into various other topics, but that gives me a different venue where in my regular show I'm dealing with current events in science and various things like that. For example, this week on my paid cast, this extra hour, I'm talking about the mind of Tesla. And that's a series of talks that I'll be giving in this special series. 2 weeks ago, I talked about how to tell if an internet announcement about Planet X is real or fake. And it's so I can dive into these topics without diverting. And they're topics that they're a little too esoteric for my regular show. And so that this new venue gives me a chance to dive into some of these topics. The second week is how to talk to your friends, family, and associates about sensitive topics like Planet X or NASA lies or shadow government. Because most people that are starting to wake up and understand at least a little bit what's going on in the world. A lot of them go out and they'll try and talk to their family or their friends or their spouse or their people at church or at work. And they come back very disgruntled because they get a very negative reaction. So anyway, I'm trying to coach people on the reality of because I deal with this all the time, how to approach people to talk about sensitive topics. And if you just come out and lay it all on them, and I mean, and here's the problem too, that most people are very poorly informed because they go out and they search information, and the first thing they encounter is a bunch of disinformation, and they assimilate that, and so they come off looking like a bunch of complete idiots. So it's a very difficult thing for people to manage. So that show, it takes them through the whole array of issues and teaches them basically how to handle and how to talk to people about these sensitive issues. So anyway, that's the second hour paid cast. I call it paid cast. But anyway, you asked. And all of the archives going back 15 years are on my webpage for my radio shows. And those are all free.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I didn't know about your new show.
Yeah.
You've just had 2 weeks of it now?
Yeah, actually 3. I did the last week of July, including in August. So that goes along with the August shows. So August will have 5 paid casts for $3.95, and people love it.
Is it?
I'm getting really
is that
great
$3.95 a month or a year?
$3.95 per month, and it's a subscription. You pay through PayPal, and then it's a recurring charge, and you can stop anytime you want. But the reaction I'm getting is that people really like it because of the fact I can dive into these, like I say, more esoteric topics and really unwaveringly dig deep into them. Like this series on Tesla is going to be super. And it's hard to do that on my regular show, to get into that level, because I'm dealing with so many levels of people, new people, old people that have been there a long time. And so there's a balance that I have to try and keep in the regular commercial-free show.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're dealing with different levels of understanding. To people, people who have a better understanding of science are probably going to be the ones who want to listen to your paidcast and that kind of stuff. You're getting into more depth, right, on the paidcast ones.
Yeah, and people love it. I get it. There's a real cross section of people that are purchasing subscriptions, but it's information you're not going to find anyplace else, and I think that's what people realize. That I've been there, I've done things, I've had inside the science world, and I basically rediscovered Tesla's work before I jumped on the bandwagon with Tesla. It was really kind of a dead topic. There was the Tesla Society and groups, and they were trying to do various things. But after I wrote that book, it was probably the Atlantis to Tesla book, The Colburn Connection. That was probably around 2003 that came out. People went crazy. All of a sudden, Tesla's name was every place. And so it really struck a nerve. And now what I'm going to do is go in these paidcasts and dig into Tesla's mind, which is a very difficult topic. I mean, there's people that can understand his inventions, they can understand various aspects of Tesla, and there's a lot of misconceptions about Tesla, but to go into his mind and examine it as a scientist, as somebody who understands electromagnetism, and what was his specialty, where was he going, what were his limitations? What body of knowledge did he have to work with, and what was he lacking? The things that we know today, for example, about the solar system. So anyway, it's going to be a great, and it's going to go on for a long time. Probably once a month, I'll do a Tesla's Mind special in that paidcast.
Wow. That sounds fantastic. I mean, you're an excellent teacher. I consider myself to be fairly well informed. I've been, reading alternative literature and I started in science too when I was in university. But I don't know anybody as smart as you, James, on the planet. I'm not trying to suck up to you or anything, but you are a brilliant man, and everyone should listen to your show and learn from you. I mean, really. I honestly say that. I mean, you really do have a lot to offer, and especially your free show. I mean, everyone. It's only an hour a week, right?
Yes, 1 hour per week, and that's good too because it's not so much that the average person can't sit there and listen day after day after day, but 1 hour, mostly everybody can listen, and a lot of people do it. It's a show that grows because. I touch on so many topics that it's bound to hit probably 99.9% of all the people out there. I hit on a topic that's relevant to them. And then they go, holy cow, then they start listening to the other stuff, and then they really go, holy cow. So, but I do it on a level that people can understand. That's what people appreciate also. It's not like you watched the TV Cosmos series and they tell you that they're smart and you're dumb and just believe what they say because they all got PhDs. I don't deal with it like that. I explain things so people can understand it. And when they walk away understanding, well, all of a sudden, it becomes very powerful.
Well, you often reframe the mainstream news stories of the week, too, which I find very good.
Right. Yeah, because, oh, man, the public are they getting burned royally with the garbage that comes out in science? Science reporting, I mean, you think the regular news media is bad. Science reporting is really bad. Take it up an order of magnitude bad. It's just they report whatever NASA or whatever, whoever tells them something, that's what gets printed. So it's just, and there's no analysis, there's no critical commentary, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So, science is an area that really is in need of critical commentary, and that's what I do.
Today I was reading, or the last few days, they're talking about some huge meteor shower. Is that for real?
I am not up on that particular story, and so I can't comment on that. I should be. You would think that
Well, main area. That's one of your main. I mean, you're into so many things, but maybe you've just been on holidays like most people. I've been watching the news much, but I certainly have been taking it easy on the studying and reading and stuff. So,
yeah, well, I get redirected. I'm concentrating right now on a book that I'm writing, and it's like having a baby. It's time for this book to be born, so to speak. And so it's like, okay, well, I'll direct my attention to that, which is the case with most of my books. It would just came about, and the background work was all there, and it was like, okay, it's time to have this baby. And so I'm working on that, and hurricane analysis for the year. That's mid-August, so we're halfway through the hurricane season, and it's really kind of a joke watching what the National Weather Service is doing and how they're backpedaling because there isn't any hurricane season to speak of, and the only hurricanes we had were out of the hurricane season. But anyway, so I'm doing some things like that. But yeah, unfortunately, I missed any story on asteroids or what meteor shower you were talking about.
Yeah. They're saying at least 150 sightings planned for tonight. Although I'm sort of in the city here. I don't see the sky like I'd like to. I was up in Quebec recently, up in the mountains, and you see like 10 times the number of stars. When you're there.
Right. Yeah, but I imagine
so much more when you can see the sky better, and all sorts of weird things are going on. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I suspect that this is related to one of the standard meteor showers, and I'm one of those persons, a scientist. I'm not a person with a say great memory for dates and things like that. I am more of a logical mind. And so, like, say, when I used to take tests, I didn't remember the equations, like some people had them written on their hand or something like that. I'd sit and figure them out from basic principles while I was sitting there taking the test. And so, that's the way my mind works. And so for things like, say, meteor showers, an astronomer that has, say, studied astronomy would know, oh, sure, in early August is the whatever meteor stream by name or whatever. And but yeah, unfortunately, my brain doesn't work on remembering facts and dates and times and all of that stuff. But if I wanted to look it up, which maybe in a break here or something, I can quick look it up. But
yeah. Oh, for sure. It's well, like I say, you're doing other stuff, but when they talk about Planet X, and I find more and more they're talking about these issues in the mainstream news. Some of the astronomers are talking about them now. Is there a reason for that? Like the guys that work for NASA.
Yeah, NASA wants to take over the topic of Planet X, and so anyway, that's why you see that. In fact, they actually made an announcement that they want to take over the topic of Planet X. Oops, can you hold on for just a second?
Oh, sure.
A second, I'm gonna put on mute here. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, we're almost at the end of our program here anyways, folks, so we'll let James do what he has to do, but thanks for joining us this week again on Iron Nature. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Leuren Moray. Again, she's sort of the equivalent of James McCanney, but she has a very similar background, similar interests, and she's free as he is to explore and research. She doesn't work for universities. She's not being controlled in any way. So I really encourage people to check her out on YouTube. It's Leuren, 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 Moret, Moret. Yeah, she is just one heck of an amazing thinker. And also James, JMCC SCI is .com. That's his website, and that's where you'll connect to his radio show, his books. Oh, he's got a few things that he sells that are good for us, like great water filters. His books. He's part of the Permacube Revolution. Sort of a self-contained growing system for a family of 5. You can grow everything you need, your fish, your eggs for chickens, dehydrator, you name it, all in one system. So I introduced James to that, and he's gotten on that. So yeah, it's it's good to know both of these great thinkers. And we all have to look for different sources, because the mainstream is really just telling a story in hiding the most important facts from us. So anyways.
Brian.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
I'm back. I'm sorry about that.
I was running out of stuff to ad lib about, but hey, what should you, we got like 2 minutes left before I have to drop the server here. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I encourage people to visit my webpage, the jmccsci.com, and we'll plan a show where I'll be on for the whole show.
Oh, for sure. Oh, there you go. I just got you in just before the break comes up, because there's another show now at midnight, so I can't keep you.
Oh, okay.
So I got to let you go. So thanks a lot for coming on.